Hello, hello, hello.
And welcome to the Hildebrand Law Firm topic for today.
I'm Kirsten Hildebrand,
And I'm Matt Kaplan.
and today we're going to talk about what happens after your estate planning is done. Because what we do when we put your estate planning in place is we build two wonderful boxes for you. In most cases, we're building boxes for you to put different assets into. And if you decide that you're going to build a revocable trust box and an irrevocable trust box, then the question becomes, how is it that these things are funded? Because does it do any good to have trusts that are unfunded?
Wait a minute. So I just spent 6 weeks and all this effort getting my estate planning done, and the process isn't over yet?
No, actually,
What?
it's very important to make sure to complete the process, because otherwise it is better that you would have used that money to just go for a long weekend in New York.
Of course. So yeah, I think the funding process that I always tell clients is after everything's created is probably the most important process, because without funding, exactly, you just wasted all that time.
Yes.
You could have the most wonderful revocable trust box, the most wonderful irrevocable trust box, but if there's nothing in that box is useless. You ever seen a box just with nothing in it? It's
Yes.
just sitting in the corner. It's like, when are you going to throw that out? Same thing. The trust is just a pile of papers at that point if there's
That's
nothing
right.
in it.
That's exactly right. And so we are really comprehensive about talking through your various assets, getting your financial advisor involved, and making sure that we put a plan together for how to transfer the assets. Now, there's certain assets that have to be transferred legally,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be the home or anything else that has a title, like if you have land or property or anything like that.
Yeah, and if you also, let's say you may have a car that you want to put into the trust, maybe a boat, maybe an airplane, things that have title get done a little.
Sorry.
Maybe a car, maybe a boat, maybe an airplane. Things that have title need to be transferred a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're talking about, I think we need to distill this to a little bit simpler terms. We're talking about transferring assets into the trust. Really, at its simplest term, is you go to the name on your account, and your name might say Joe Smith. You change that name to Smith Revocable Trust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then once it's changed, it's in the trust. Is it that easy?
It is that easy. And it looks really fancy too on checks. So I know people aren't writing a lot of checks these days, but it's really cool when you have Smith Revocable Trust or Smith Living Trust on your checkbook. It's
Right.
very
You get out your quill pen. It's
cool.
like,
That's
yes,
right.
I will write a $25 check to my grandson.
That's right. Yes, yes. So it's really important to make sure that you're paying attention to that. And I feel very happy about the level that we hold people's hands and really walk them through funding.
And with funding too, what's so important is depending on the type of trust plan you have, but for the vast majority of trust plans that we do, funding, it involves everything that you have in your name. If there's an account in your name, it no longer can be in your name. I mean, you have these trusts, you might as well utilize them.
Yeah.
And so what does that include, Kirsten? Checking account, savings account, brokerage account, any CDs, any individual stocks, individual bonds, any life insurance. Life insurance is huge,
Yes.
especially. So any account with your individual name. What about retirement accounts?
Yes. Well, retirement accounts are a little bit different because they are what we call qualified accounts, which means that they qualified to not be taxed when you receive the money through your income. But now that you have a trust, the question is, can you move that qualified account into the trust? And the easy way to remember this is Uncle Sam will not allow any money to leave your individual name unless it has been taxed with income tax. So if you want to transfer that asset into an irrevocable trust or a revocable trust, either one, it would need to be taxed first. Now, it definitely has some situations where the person may want to have that occur in order for it to go into an irrevocable trust. Otherwise, you're going to want to think about making the beneficiary
Mm.
of that qualified account be the trust, because then what we do in terms of the division of the assets will be really important.
And keep in mind too, if you're going to do something like that, make sure whatever trust you have has the necessary language in there that even allows you to make the designated beneficiary. That's not standard. I don't even know if there's standard stock trust language,
Right.
but if there was, it's not. We see trusts all the time that don't have those typical clauses in there that
Yep.
you would need in order to do something like that. So make sure that you have the ability to do that. If you don't, it might be time to update your trust.
That's right. Which, by the way, we're always happy to look at your trust and see what the components of it are.
And I think one final analogy I want to use, Kirsten, with regards to funding is one thing I've been saying recently. Think of the trust. You get one trust, you get two trusts, maybe you get a whole slew of trusts. Think of it as like a closet.
Yes.
If you just spent all this time and money to get this wonderful closet built up, and the closet comes with all these sorts of protections in it. While your clothes are in there, they're not going to get wrinkled. You have a daughter. Your daughter's not going to steal them.
Right.
They're totally protected unless you give it to her.
Mm-hmm.
Medicaid's not going to get your clothes.
Yeah.
Anyone who sues you is not going to get your clothes, and your clothes are not going to go through probate. But that only works if your clothes are hung up.
Right.
If your clothes are on the ground, if your clothes are in the hamper, if you're wearing them, so if they're still in your personal name, that closet's not going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so the active funding, hanging the clothes up. Once those clothes are hung up, then you can utilize all the mechanisms within that closet that you just developed. And so that's why I've always pictured funding as probably the most important process.
I agree. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We are here for your today and your tomorrow, and we will see you next time.